But without further ado, because I know you will all be very, very excited to listen to our speakers, I'm going to ask Josef Skála to speak first. Thank you. Would you like to go to the podium?
Okay.
Yes?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Comrades, my first question is, which continent is not present here? Australia. Okay. Australia. Next time, please, complete it. I must tell you, I always feel extremely happy whenever I enter the party like that of yours, which is not spoiled by the parliamentary careerism and similar, let's say, pathologies. It's visible from the beginning. You like each other. You are happy to come, to meet. You are comrades. Comrades with capital S. C, sorry. And it's recharging the batteries of people like myself very much. Thanks a lot for this. I'm neither the Pope of Rome nor the Archbishop of Canterbury, so don't worry. So there will not be any dictatorship. I mean, I'd like rather to provoke a debate. I believe that that's the purpose of our meeting. I'm really curious what you will contribute to the topic which we celebrate today. And I do believe that all of us know the history of the Great October Socialist Revolution. And I cannot dare now to repeat all the, let's say, well-known data. Rather, I'd like to speak about certain elements which are a matter of a big ideological battle today, that's A. And secondly, on the issues which, to my opinion, represent an inspiration for us in totally different conditions of today. As you know, the Great October Revolution is now evaluated by many of our opponents as not only a terrorist attack and all of this, but as a premature, let's say, step. That as if Bolsheviks and their allies did not have a right to go that way. Let me remind you, a famous German sociologist, a liberal one, Max Weber. You remember, many of you perhaps, this name. The man was traveling through Russia at the beginning of the 20th century, and he even wrote several programs of the Russian party called Cadets, Constitutional Democrats. And he wrote several extremely interesting texts about pre-revolutionary Russia. And the key item in his, let's say, considerations was that capitalism is coming to Russia too late. Too late. This was Max Weber's, let's say, opinion. What did it mean? As we know from Lenin, the capitalism grew to the imperial stage, which divided its body into two pieces. One was the metropolis, which were seeking for a big rent from the periphery. And Russia was that periphery in extremely specific climatic, agricultural, and other conditions. So if Russia would become, let's say, Kuwait, as was the plan, the tragedy of Russian people will be horrible. Secondly, how did they dare to go for power? What was the situation in 1917? Russia was in war for the interests and goals which had nothing in common with genuine Russian interests. It was a it was a big army losing many lives in the interests of Britain, France, and the United States of America. And none of the Russian political subjects was capable to quit the war even after the February Revolution, when Tsar was removed and so on. And now I will tell you one new finding of Russian genuine historians, which are not obedient to any Gorbachev and Khrushchev and Yeltsin and such, let's say, specific persons. They discovered that a part of, a very important, hidden part of, let's say, the way towards the Great October Revolution was a hidden cooperation of the several leaders of the Bolshevik Party with the most enlightened Russian colonels and generals, around 30 people in the general staff of the Russian army, under Tsar already, and I would go more far, and especially in the, let's say, secret service of the general staff, came to the understanding that Russia would totally collapse and would be divided by imperialist predators from abroad in case it would continue that way. And there is only one political subject in Russia which would guarantee leaving the war still in time and preserving integrity, unity of, let's say, Russian state. And there were hidden negotiations. And you know who was representing the Bolshevik Party? Namely, Josef Stalin in these negotiations. The man who is demonized as idiot. I don't know. You know what stupidities are, let's say, spread on his address. He had political wisdom and courage to go even into such, let's say, interesting, let's say, step, which was very helpful for the revolution. And we can say, to a certain extent, that also the Great October Socialist Revolution had an element very similar to the revolution in Portugal in 1974, which, as you know, was arranged by the Communist Party, led by legendary Álvaro Cunhal, and the group of patriotic, let's say, enlightened officers. This story is still mixed with another element, and unfortunately, the second, let's say, attack on the, let's say, proper picture of the Great October Revolution is raised from the side of Russian historians, which claim, and it's also funny, and I'm having disputes with some of them, that Russian Bolshevik Party, in fact, went the opposite way than what Marx and Engels, let's say, prepared. And as if Marx and Engels were insisting the revolution can be only, let's say, in the most advanced economically countries, and Lenin and his group, let's say, stepped, let's say, back to all of this and decided to go the other way and so on. Unfortunately, these people, they don't know, for instance, one important fact. When Marx was living here in London in the 70s, he spent here half of his life, as you know, was so interested in the developments of Russia that he started to learn Russian. And he was reading, why? He wanted to read statistical abstracts and let's say, similar serious sources of how Russia is developing. And he was addressed by Russian, let's say, alternative intellectuals, and they were asking him whether Russia can pass capitalism, in fact, based on this, what is called in Russian, obchina, you know, this very specific collective organization in the village, in the agricultural sphere, and not to, let's say, be tortured by all the, let's say, repercussions of capitalist development. And Marx wrote them that yes, it is possible, provided the revolution is led by a, let's say, mature proletarian revolutionary party, which is capable to have a necessary influence also in the countryside. And exactly this happened. And what is extremely interesting, and for us it's a big inspiration, how Lenin was developing his view on these issues. At the end of the 19th century, he wrote a famous book, The Development of Capitalism in Russia. And there he was claiming, yes, that we should do our best for that capitalism comes, develops in Russia, let's say, shows all his contradictions, and only afterwards we can move further. But during the first Russian Revolution, in the years 1905 up to 1907, he got a new, let's say, experience, and extremely was capable to convert it into the change of strategy and tactics of Bolshevik party. And exactly this, let's say, brought the victory, the capability to address the majority of working people which were in the countryside. Most of them were, let's say, no education. They were, how you call it in English? Help me. Illiterate, yes. I'm sorry, time to time losing certain words. And I need souffleur. So that was another big inspiration for us. Why? Because today the chances to move towards socialism would, let's say, be available time to time in totally different conditions than it was in the past. And we should be capable to creatively develop that, let's say, that capital with small c, which we got from Marx, Engels, Lenin, and other, let's say, clever people. Another stupid distortion of everything consists in that as if Stalin diverted from the politics of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Another stupidity. Another stupidity. He developed the same path, and he, let's say, creatively further developed it in this situation when, as you know, Russian Bolsheviks went for the October Revolution deeply convinced that just after there will be a continuation in Germany and other European countries. And it was quite a legitimate expectation. Unfortunately, in none of these countries there was a party comparable to Russian Bolshevik Party. With all my sympathies to Rosa Luxemburg, for instance, which was a great woman, big theoretician in economic sciences and so on. Have you read their speech in the first Congress of the Communist Party of Germany around Christmas in 1918? It's difficult to say it, but I must say it. There was no strategy, no tactics. It was simply a speech about the now workers will take power. The workers themselves cannot take power, I mean, if they don't have proper organization, a program, and so on. And unfortunately, Rosa Luxemburg and her colleague Liebknecht were murdered in a, let's say, very dirty and cruel way. Now, there are two big contradictions, comrades, and you know it, let me name them very openly. The conditions for a move towards socialism are more mature than ever before. Capitalism is in a stage when really nothing is solved as it should be, let's say from the position of the majority. But unfortunately, the subjective factor of that move beyond the horizon of capitalism are weaker than ever before. That's a horrible contradiction. And secondly, now people who are proletarians objectively represent a bigger part of the society than ever before. Even IT guys, I mean, are also proletarians, many of them, and so on. But a portion of those objective proletarians which regard themselves proletarians and seek for some understanding of their social, if not class even, interests is smaller than ever before. these two horrible, let's say, contradictions seek for their solution. It will not be easy, but we should think about it very intensively. And there, I think the key point is to find those key antagonisms which can get the ground for our political offensive, not only defending this and that, but going ahead, even against the big power, let's say, power play which is played by the capital and its state and transnational institutions and so on. And I believe that one of them is represented by further development of what Lenin in an excellent way depicted in his famous book, Imperialism as the highest, let's say, stage of capitalism. You remember, he speaks there or writes there, by the way, he read 148 books in order to, and 320 or how many articles in order to write this book. Could you imagine? It's something unbelievable. And he speaks there not only about periphery and metropolis. He speaks there about the acceleration of the uneven development of capitalism, which was very dramatic, and about the fact that capitalism, especially in the metropolis, is getting parasitic and decaying. I remember when we were, let's say, attending the lessons of Marxism-Leninism in the university, that if some of the teachers used this formulation, that many of my, let's say, fellows were, what, parasitic, decaying? What sort of stupidity that they have very nice shops there and I don't know what, and cars. So it was difficult to explain that there's nice shops and cars are also in Africa for somebody, for some part of the society only. But what happened with this finding? Export of capital was a typical, let's say, trend already there, that time. But now, the capital was so much exported, not only capital, but technologies, production, so much exported towards the cheapest labor, so that in the United States, Detroit, which was a, let's say, shop window of the American dream, almost each worker in Detroit had a house for kids. His wife was at home and he was capable to feed it and all of this. Everybody was happy. Now you know what is this called Detroitization of America. This is a total rubbish there. And this is happening almost in each field. So even the production moved also due to these policies out of the imperialist metropolis. And where is the economic, let's say, background or ground or power, or how to call it? It's in the countries which are called by Vladimir Putin and Sergei Lavrov the countries of world majority or global majority. They are out. They are in the, as they call it, in the east and in the south. They are not as it was there, as it was in the past. By the way, the story of the military conflict in Ukraine is a very interesting, let's say, proof of all of this. If Russia can produce 3 times more ammunition for artillery than the whole collective West, I think it shows what I'm speaking about. And for us, there is a big topic: how to react on these new crossroads. We know that in Russia there is a capitalist system, a system which is not very friendly to quite many, let's say, people, socially, still. I know that Putin, let's say, got it from the past in a horrible, is somehow improving it and so on. It cannot be done immediately and so on. But there is still oligarchs there, which are very rich, and it's disgusting to see certain things, I mean, like this. Why to hide it? It's a capitalist society. But still, objectively, the state policies of Russia, not speaking about China, for instance, are creating a new balance of power. And we should benefit out of it, not in an opportunist way. We should catch this opportunity and work with it. For all of us, the more BRICS would move ahead, economically, geopolitically, militarily, if you wish, though it's not a military organization, but there are other organizations like Shanghai Organization of Cooperation and so on. The more, let's say, they proceed, and the more they withstand the pressure of the US and their satellites, the bigger the space for left-wing progressive forces globally, including Britain and Czech Republic and so on. So we should find our proper approach towards this new big chance, very big chance. What are the other opportunities? I think one of them consists in this unprecedented level of parasitism, which is visible in all the Western countries, European, Euro-American civilization, including, for instance, the Czech Republic. We have 84 billionaires, I mean in Czech crowns, which own almost 20% of all the assets. 84 billionaires. These people stole what we had before, collective investments. They did not create a single anything, I mean. I'm always asking, do these people, did they bring any innovation? What the classics of bourgeois economy are claiming, that profit is, let's say, a remedy for the risk. That you come and you develop something new and you are risking, and you may win or you may lose. They could not lose because they were not doing anything like this. I mean, they're only stealing, I mean. And this element is converting into visible antagonism even for the people who are not left-wing oriented, who inherited all these illusions about November Revolution, velvet, finally freedom, and I don't know what. And now they see, even if they are not workers, proletariats, if they have small companies, and so they are permanently beaten by this parasitic layer of the society. Moreover, obviously by foreign capital. And in the countries like the Czech Republic, it's very apparent. Believe me or not, we were economically very advanced country before the coup in '89. We were playing an active sovereign role in what I'm calling the Champions League of global industry. Champions League. I cannot now spend so much of your time by enumerating in which fields we were among, let's say, the top, let's say, players. We had absolute, let's say, capability of the country to feed itself, except of oranges and bananas, I don't know, lemons, which you can hardly, let's say, plant. You can, but it costs money, and you should use electricity and so on. Now we have the lowest, let's say, portion of our consumption created at home. And we are tortured by chains like Tesco from here and like Albert. And they are playing with us really a colonial game. And they buy something for 10 units and they sell it for 60. And nobody can, let's say, do anything with this so far. I think that anti-parasitic, let's say, front is another big chance. And I think we should prepare it much more analytically and conceptually. For countries like the Czech Republic, not so much perhaps in Britain, it's the big chance which was depicted already by Lenin in his thesis on a national and a colonial and national item or issue or question, which he presented to, I think, to the second Congress of Comintern, where he has the following, let's say, line. The more the country is under the pressure, dictate of foreign capital, the more the communists should address their policies to all those who are suffering from it, including small capital, including, let's say, national capital and so on. They should get the speakers of all these people. They should get the navigators of joint struggle against. They should create also the organizational forms for it and so on. And I'm a member of a party which I'm proud for, let's say, certain stages of our history. You may remember it. At the end of the Second World War, our party created a bloc representing a unity of the majority of the country, and was a vanguard inside this bloc, and led it up to, step by step, up to the crisis in February 1948, when these our opponents made a mistake and, let's say, left the government. They were 12 and 13 let's say, did not leave it. No, and our comrades went to the president of the country and said, okay, we'll replace these 12 and we'll have a new government. And that's it. So we passed the border of capitalism without a single bullet. You know, without a single bullet. I'm speaking too long, and I will maybe finish in several minutes. I think that there is even a new, from the theoretical point of view, a new element which deserves a big attention from our side. Traditionally, we had our goals divided into two stages. The first one was called general democratic. I mean, the fight inside capitalist society. And then socialist, revolutionary, let's say, beyond the borders of capitalism. Basically, it's a norm for today as well. But I believe that, and let's think about it, I think it's a very productive, let's say, line of thinking. The fact that all the problems which capitalism is not capable to solve would be solved beyond his borders. Oh, melodrama. It's a constant true. It was the true, and it is the true, it will be the true. But the degeneration of capitalism came to the level when it's, let's say, getting the very fact that the solution lies beyond the border of capitalism is getting an acute appeal on us today. We cannot, there is not a revolutionary situation that tomorrow we can pass, but we can, especially in countries like the Czech Republic, I think in Britain as well, in certain, let's say, certain conditions, we can insist on and raise, let's say, proposals, demands and so on, which are moving to the borders of capitalism. This is the only way to somehow solve, to minimize the big, let's say, risks and another, let's say, the repercussions of the degeneration of capitalism. You are reading, I believe, also the books of, what is his name in World Economic Forum? No, help me again. The boss of, once a year they meet all these guys. Klaus Schwab, bravo, thanks a lot. In my age, I have a right time to time, not react quickly. The RAM in my head is slower time to time. If you read also the books of Klaus Schwab, you must, let's say, see the dosage of perversion which these people are capable to run, to push. If I say it in a little bit simplifying way, In the period when the Western countries were led by, I don't know, Roosevelt, Churchill even, Willy Brandt, Charles de Gaulle and so on, these were bourgeois politicians. We may have many very sharp, let's say, critical remarks to them, but to this or that extent, they were somehow striving for development of their countries. There was some development. There was a bourgeois development, but there was a development. What are striving? For what are striving people like Ursula von der, or Scholz, or Macron, how they call him in Russia instead of Macron, and people like this? That their goal is destruction. It's not a development, it's destruction. There's a continuous destruction of all the pillars of modern civilization. And it has deep, let's say, roots in the level to which the crisis of capital reproduction reached. Very shortly saying, in the past, capitalism was not, let's say, any friendly guide towards normal people, but the reproduction of capital was to a big extent depending on capability to sell the production, the goods and services on the market. And basically, who is the market? Basically, it's those people who are, let's say, creating surplus value, workers and the others. Because the parasitic consumption of the tops, it cannot solve the problem. Today, this is over. They lost, during this globalization stage, they lost the only way how they could escape from the crisis, which was, let's say, getting new markets. There are no new markets today. Over. They can, I don't wish it, but if they smash Cuba, which unfortunately once, I believe it will not happen. For their reproduction of capital, it will not be nothing. Cuba is not such a big country. If they smash People's Republic of Korea, okay, similar story. So what is happening? More and more capital is reproducing itself in a totally speculative way, not creating a single new value, zero value, doing it at the risk of ourselves, not at his risk, doing it, let's say, on our debt, because all the debts we are creating, they are nationalizing, but doing it even by their back to all the human needs. This is for the first time in the history. And this provides us, first of all, a big panorama which should be explained to the people to show to which extent parasitism is a principle, is a pillar of this society. And at the same time, it provides us the chance to create much broader alliances, to get a speaker of much, let's say, more influential structures, provided we are a genuine vanguard. We are a genuine vanguard. And that's the key problem of today's communist movement, that those parties who are still in the parliaments and so on, unfortunately, they are not vanguards. They are not vanguards. They play on the playground of the opposite side. They are enjoying what was called by Engels and the others trade unionism only, and combining it with what they were also calling parliamentary cretinism. I think it's a very precise formulation. And so we have two big tasks: to get a navigator of much broader alliances by addressing their specific interests. Because the key antagonism with the global capital is growing, is affecting yet broader and broader strata. And in this respect, we should learn very much from our big teachers from the past. And secondly, this makes sense only we are a vanguard which does not create an illusion that it's enough to change some ministers and several paragraphs, and it will be okay. That's the problem of most of the parties which are claiming we are radical left and so on. They are not. They are not. You have a big advantage. Your theoretical foundations are genuinely vanguard. And I'm proud to be a friend with Harpal Brar for many years and with the whole dynasty of Brars. Harpal was, the dynasty is coming also to Prague for many years. Harpal was coming since the 90s. He was a very young man and always participating in the conferences which were organized by regional units only of the party. This shows, by the way, also something. The leadership never wanted, something, people like Harpal. So we are doing it as an initiative on the lower stage. And then Rajit also was coming, and Jyoti was coming. And I must tell you that our comrades, and not only communists, which were attending such meetings, were witnesses of that you are really a genuine vanguard. It was clear, moving to the substance of the issue, capable to apply the class approach and to not to, let's say, be a victim of fashionable versions, stories, narratives as they call it and so on. To oppose all of this. I'm proud to have such friends. And I have one proposal, comrades. You are a small party and due to objective reasons, to get a big, let's say, subject on the British political scene, once it will happen, but not perhaps so quickly, due to many objective conditions. You are not giving up. Let's say, this fact itself is very, let's say, promising. And I propose to you a cooperation in the field in which you are very strong. I'm a director now of the Institute of the Czech Left, which is an institute created by the Communist Party. I was moved a little bit aside not to disturb people. At the same time, okay, I'm theoretically somehow educated and so on. I think that we should, across Europe, create a new network of subjects which are genuinely Marxist, if you wish, Leninist. Though in Czech Republic, if you say Leninist, you can go to the prison. So we should speak about Marx. I think you do by your heads like this, all of you. So I regard it as an approval. I will come back and I will present it to my colleagues and comrades in the institute. I must tell you, this institute, there is a core Marxist, let's say, part, but I succeeded to bring there dozens of intellectuals which are enlightened. They are not Marxists, but they are, let's say, more and more against the neoliberal policies of the government, against the attempts to push Czech Republic to the war with Russia and maybe even China. Some idiots claim. There is the second man in the order of constitutional representatives who is capable to say the following sentence. After we how is it in English?
Crush, destroy.
Destroy. After we win over Russia, we go on China. Could you imagine this man who has 6,000 soldiers and he wants to defeat Russia and then China. But they shout these stupidities and not a small part of the society thinks that, aha, this is true. So, okay, I'm spending too much of their time. I believe that we will have an interactive debate after. That it will not be, as I said, I'm not the Archbishop of Canterbury. Thanks a lot for your...